YouTube, Hugo Addict here. This is my new dad deck. I know I've been posting a lot of them lately. I've been working on it, and I've been topping at my locals pretty consistently this format with dad decks. And this is my latest build, and I feel that so far it's probably the best combination of synergy and speed, as well as just overall effectiveness. So, moving on to the deck itself, we have Dark Arm, basically the main boss monster of the deck. You know, it's like the equivalent of Judgment Dragon and Lightsworn, Shien, and 6 Ams, etc. There's no reason not to run it, and plus it's the namesake of the deck, hence being Teleport Dark Armed or TELE Dad. Then you have your 2 Chaos Sorcerer, which, these cards, they fall somewhere in between, like, you're replacing your 3rd Melee and replacing your 2nd and 3rd Dad. What I mean by that is they're 6 stars, so they're effective for synchroing, but they also have a very good removal effect, and they can get rid of big synchros like Shien, Stardust, Scrap Dragon, etc. Next we have 1 Caius, which is basically the normal summon version of Chaos Sorcerer, and he's just way too good. He's also the 6 stars that I mentioned before, so he's great for synchroing. And he provides an out to Shien, Necro Valley, etc., which is really important for this deck. Next we have 1 Stratos, which searches out your 2 Melee, and then Diamond Dude's just kind of the loner in this equation. Diamond Dude, you're running like 13 normal spells, so he'll hit about 1 out of every 3 if he uses effect. Melee is just your main synchroing, and Stratos is the floater that helps keep the engine flowing. Then we have 2 Krebins, self-explanatory. Level 2 tuner goes good with the level 6s, and allows you to go into big synchro plays. Then we have Black Salvo, which goes with 2 Dekoichi, or as I like to call it, the Gain Train, because it's a +1. These are sort of there mostly for the Black Rose option, and also for the fact that Dekoichi is really good just in terms of an overall effective card. Then we move on to the lights, which are 2 Raikou. This provides milling, which helps with graveyard control. It pops cards like Necro Valley and Shien, stuff like that, and overall it's just a really good card. Then we have Cyber Valley, which is a floater. It baits out things like Smash and Ground, Fisher, Warning, and stuff, so that you can do your synchros and not have to worry about that stuff later. It acts as a mini draw engine, and just in case you ever mill 2 Malicious, which normally does not happen, its last effect can act as a bit of a safety feature. Then we have 1 Cyber Dragon, just to finish off the lights, and it's a big beater. Just an overall pretty effective card in my opinion. 1 Breaker, I'm using this because GKs for whatever reason are run by a lot of the super poor people at my locals, so I use this to counteract that. Because a lot of them also run Bottomless, so this is either going to bait out Bottomless, bait out a Warning by somebody that runs a more expensive build, or it's going to kill off a Necro Valley. Either way, it stops a threat. Then I have 1 Gores, which it's just an OTK stopper, really. It's pretty effective, but I might take it out. Not a whole lot to say about Gores. He's pretty obvious. There's Plague Spreader, your last level 2. It allows you to go into big plays, and I find myself using this a lot more than Krebins at times. To be honest, I kind of wish that this just came back to 2 on the Forbidden Limited list, and I'd just probably drop the Teleport engine completely. Then, we have 2 Duality. Basically, it replaces your Allures that you used to have that allowed for your consistency and your D-Draw, etc. What all that does really is it allows you to sift through your deck and get your main combo pieces, which is something that this deck was lacking as soon as they limited D-Draw and Allure. But with the release of Duelist Revolution, you were able to start, drawing cards better. Then you have 2 Gold Sarcophagus. I'm running these in this build because I do run the Cyber Valleys and the Gores and the Dekoichis, so I can hold the fort and I can still maintain field presence for the 2 turns I'm waiting for the card with this one. And I'm also not running as many defensive traps, So I'm going to want to use my cards faster, and that's what Gold Arc allows me to do. Then I have 1 D draw and 1 allure. Just your extra draw cards and, yeah. Then you have Emergency Teleport, just kind of goes along with the whole namesake. TELE Dad searches out your Krebins, goes into big synchro plays, and overall is a pretty effective card. 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. I was a pretty big critic of this card before, but I feel that you need it right now because of Gateway plays, United plays, Necro Valley, Dragon's Ravine, I think it's called, and Dragonities, etc., etc., etc. Then you have 1 Reinforcement of the Army, searches out like your Stratos, which is really important in this deck. 1 Trunade. Pretty effective card. It's your only field clear of this format, and this deck needs a clear field in order to operate at its fullest potential. Then you have 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Dark Hole. Pretty obvious staples. I'm not going to go into detail on those ones. You have 1 Solemn Judgment. Basically, if you can go Stardust and like Colossal, set this and maybe a Phoenix Wing, a Mirror Force, something like that, you're golden and you'll probably win that game. It's a game ender, and it helps secure the win. I run 2/7 tools because this format is very counter trap based with I believe it's called something Magatama in Samurais. That's a very key card with them, and that's a card that can stop a lot of things that you played as an out to most of their cards. So this can negate that. It can negate warning, and they're paying 2,000 life points to your 1 to negate it, and the momentum's in your favor because you're about to do a big synchro play probably, or a big Stratos play if they're warning it. So overall, it's a pretty effective tech choice in my opinion, and I feel 2 is worth it in order to let my plays go off. Then I'm playing 1 Return because it's just a big play enabler, and with all the removal this deck does, especially with Chaos Sorcerer, it just allows me to secure the win. It is somewhat of a win more card, but if you're in a bad situation, a well-timed return can win you the game. Then you have 1 Mirror Force, just a pretty obvious card, just your generic field clear if your opponent declares an attack. Yeah. Then to finish things off, we have 1 Phoenix Wing, 1 Blast. I'm running this because it's another efficient way to dump Mally or Plague from the hand, and it also allows you to stop plays and disrupt them. So yeah. And what time are we at? Okay. Then the side deck we have 1 DD Warrior Lady. Just an out to Shion, etc., and it's a light for Chaos Sorcerer if you side him. 1 Black Horn of Heaven. I was main decking a few in my Skill Drain build, but that was more anti-meta, and I don't have the room in this build, so I've opted to side just the 1. Chain Disappearance is good against pretty much everything right now. It can stop a lot of the key Munchie monsters that your opponents are playing, or the chump blockers. 1 Crevice is really good against Formula Monarchs. We see occasional stuff like zombies as well at our locals, so I run that. I run Malevolent Catastrophe as a generic field clear against things like, Gravekeeper's Hero Beat, etc. I may go as far as to main decking. That's something that I might have to test out. Just due to the fact that this deck suffers from large back row, and I'm not as big of a fan of Trap Stud in this format. Then you have 1 DD Crow, just to stop plants, stuff like that. I'm running an Air Knight because I sided in against things like Junk Doppel and Frog Monarch because they have a lot of chump blockers, so you can just use Air Knight and keep gaining advantage on them. So, and it's a light for Chaos Sorcerer. It's a little old school, but I like it. It's something I'm going to test out. Then I have 2 Kaiku against Junk Doppel, things like that. It's a big beater, dark, spellcaster, what more can you ask for? 2 Dustinoido. Just generic spell trap removal, MST and trap form. Pulling the Rug for Formula Monarchs. Kinetic Soldier for Sams. 1 Cyber Dragon against Samurai because it forces them to ram a Kizan or a Grandmaster into it, or Synchro and Shien to get rid of it, which is fine. And then you have 1 Breaker for generic spell trap removal.